Brighton Rock is a song written by Brian May of Queen and is the opening track on their third studio album, Sheer Heart Attack. Before getting into the less obvious aspects of the lyrics, a brief look is necessary to establish the basic story. Please pause the video if you need to take time to read through the words. The lyrics, in the first place, have a relatively straightforward meaning that can be outlined in 6 steps. 1. Jimmy goes to Brighton to meet with a young girl named Jenny. 2. Onlookers perceive them as an attractive couple in love. 3. Jimmy tries to convince Jenny to stay longer, presumably so that he can have his way with her. 4. Jenny objects and goes home to her mother. 5. Jenny is heartbroken and writes Jimmy daily letters professing her undying love. And finally 6. Jimmy cannot respond the way Jenny would like, since he is afraid that his wife will find out. That is the basic outline of the narrative, but what more can we say of the lyrics? The first point of interest is the title, Brighton Rock. This is a pun in a few different ways. In fact, the lyrical analysis is worth doing on the basis of the title alone. Number 1, and most obviously, Brighton Rock is a rock song about an event that happens in Brighton, hence the title, Brighton Rock. Number 2, Brighton Rock is the name of a book by Graham Greene published in 1938. It was adapted into a film in 1948 starring Richard Attenborough and caused something of a stir among British audiences due to its violent nature. While Brian May was only born a year earlier in 1947, there's little doubt that May wrote Brighton Rock with an awareness of both the book and the movie. A direct parallel of the book and the film with the story of the song is certainly possible, but would be largely speculative since the stories do not mirror one another in an obvious way. The opening 2 pages of the book, however, provide parallels with the song. It is for this reason that I think that any inspiration Brian May had came more from the book than the film adaptation. So much so that the similarities are worth noting. In the first place, the book opens with holidaymakers arriving in Brighton on a bank holiday known as Whitsun, which occurs in late spring or early summer. Quote, Hale knew before he had been in Brighton 3 hours that they meant to murder him. With his inky fingers and his bitten nails, his manner cynical and nervous, anybody could tell he didn't belong to the early summer sun, the cool Whitsun wind of the sea, the holiday crowd. The fundamental plot of a newsman called Hale being under threat of murder is of course irrelevant to the song. Rather, it is the somewhat surprising fact that the book begins on a public holiday known as Whitsun amidst a holiday crowd on the Brighton beachfront. But this is exactly where Brian May's song begins. It is a public holiday on the Brighton beachfront or promenade. Furthermore, on page 2 we find this description of the Brighton Fair. With immense labour and immense patience, the holidaymakers extricated from the long day the grain of pleasure. This sun, the rattle of miniature cars, the ghost train diving between the grinning skeletons under the aquarium promenade, the sticks of Brighton Rock, the paper sailors' caps. In this single sentence, there is a description of the amusement park or carnival in Brighton. Note the carnival music with which the song begins. Another interesting point of similarity with the book is the type of language used for the lyrics of Brighton Rock. These belong to an earlier age, possibly the early 20th century of the book. The youth of 1974 did not speak the way Jimmy and Jenny do. Jimmy says, "Jenny, will you stay? Tarry with me, pray." While Jenny says things like, "We must ever be together. Nothing can my love erase." This places the book and the song in not only the same place, but in a similar era as well. It should also be noted that May could just have called his song Blackpool Rock or some other English seaside resort. The fact that he chose Brighton Rock indicates that the comparison with the Graham Greene book is not unwarranted. To someone who is not a native of Brighton or the UK for that matter, it may be necessary to point out that rock is a hard-boiled sweet in the shape of a tubular stick, usually pink on the outside and white through the centre. Rock has the place of origin written throughout its length, meaning that one can break any cross-section and find the town name emblazoned there, in this case Brighton. Hence the title of the book, Brighton Rock, refers to the confection that can be purchased there. Rock is a hard candy sweet, and its phallic shape can also be understood as a crude reference to Jimmy's anatomy and his intentions. He is going to Brighton with one thing on his mind. There's no need to explain this further. Moving on from the book and back to the title, Brighton Rock. Rocks, understood literally, are just big stones and are usually understood to be solid and enduring. In fact, the song refers to this idea of enduring stone. The middle 8 section, or the bridge, futilely instructs the Rock of Ages not to crumble on the basis that love is breathing still.
Our Rock of Ages do not crumble, love is breathing still. Our Lady Moon shine down, a little people magic if you will.
O Rock of Ages, do not crumble, love is breathing still. The idea is that the love of Jimmy and Jenny is eternal, like the Rock of Ages. Furthermore, there's an appeal to the biggest rock in the sky, Lady Moon, asking that she will grant some magic for the little people, presumably to facilitate the love of Jimmy and Jenny, who are the little people of the song. The irony is that Jimmy never loved Jenny, and the only rock their love can be accurately compared to is a hard sweet that has little endurance and quickly evaporates in the mouth. The rock in the title is not the immovable object that one might wish to equate with the enduring nature of love. Quite the opposite. The lyrics of this section are just an ironic prayer that can be neither heard nor answered, because these words have no foothold in the reality of Jimmy and Jenny's shallow relationship. So much for the title. Let us consider the song itself. Brighton Rock is, in a certain sense, one of the slickest songs in the Queen catalogue. The opening verse takes only around 20 seconds to sing.
Happy little day, Jimmy went away. There's little Jimmy on a public holiday. Happy baby, so decorously laid 'neath the gay illuminations of a London holiday.
The song flies forward for obvious reasons. The guitar and drums are played at a frenetic pace, and much of the vocal is sung in the falsetto range. Beyond this, there is barely a pause between lines. My interest, however, is the lyrics. May has written specific words that lend a certain velocity to the pacing of each phrase. For example, there are mainly 1- and 2-syllable words with short vowel sounds in them. Consider the words happy, little, Jimmy, Jenny, public. These lend a rhythmic pulse to the music. More than this is the repeated A sound that is the overwhelming rhyme heard in the verse. This causes the lyrics to flow easily on the ear. In fact, the A sound is heard 8 times in the opening 4 lines. Happy little day, Jimmy went away, met his little Jenny on a public holiday. A happy pair they made, so decorously laid, 'neath the gay illuminations all along the promenade. This indicates how discerning Brian May is with his word choices, just in terms of the impact of the syllable constructions and rhyming sequences on the ebb and flow of the music. May also includes subtle nuances that, while barely noticeable, carry significant meaning. I will examine 2 of these. In the first, May gives a hint that Jimmy's love for Jenny is not quite honourable when he tries to convince Jenny to stay in Brighton a little longer. Listen to these lines where Jimmy is the speaker.
Jenny, will you stay? telling me pray, nothing any come between us. Tell me love, what do you say?
The key word is ear. That is apostrophe E-R-E. Ear is a contraction of the word here. Jimmy basically tells Jenny that while they stay here, that is, in Brighton, nothing can come between them. He tells her, nothing here need come between us, or more exactly, nothing here need come between us. The point is that the moment they leave Brighton, as far as Jimmy is concerned, they cannot be together. Hence we know that in Jimmy's mind, this is just a holiday fling. The line is doubly interesting because the contraction that Brian May uses is not the one we would have expected. Jimmy should have said, if he really loved Jenny, nothing e'er need come between us. That is E''er. This would be more romantic indeed, since e'er is the contraction of ever and means that they would always be together. Unfortunately for Jenny, this is far from what Jimmy thinks. On the plus side, Jenny runs home, but ultimately the song has Jenny professing eternal love for Jimmy. We must ever be together, nothing can my love erase. She uses the full word, ever, which stands in contrast to the contraction that Jimmy used earlier. The second subtlety is with regard to the word holiday. This word occurs 3 times in the song. It is the third usage that is interesting. This is found in the final line of the song, where Jimmy says, "Oh no, I'm compromised. I must apologize if my lady should discover how I spent my holidays." The point of interest is that Jimmy doesn't use the singular, holiday, but the plural, holidays. May adds the single letter S. This indicates that Jimmy has had more than one holiday, probably many more than one, where he has engaged in infidelity. It is this that tells us that Jimmy is a serial womanizer and Jenny is an innocent young girl in love. This is the one time she has done this, whereas for Jimmy, this is one example in a long line of similar indiscretions. The final interpretive observation I would like to make is with regard to the possible presence in the song of what I would call a trickster demon, a sort of fiendish Cupid. This is fundamentally unprovable. Nevertheless, there is some evidence for the presence of a devilish entity that relishes the unfortunate relationship of Jimmy and Jenny, and the fact that it ends in heartbreak for Jenny and the possible dissolution of Jimmy's marriage. There are 3 main points that I present for consideration. Point number 1. Brighton Rock begins with carnival music associated with beachfront amusement parks. Once the carnival music is underway, someone whistles the melody of "I Do Like to Be Beside the Seaside." The whistle is quite buried in the mix and is quite hard to hear, so a few listens may be required to pick it out. Nevertheless, it is curious because the ending of the final song of Queen's previous album, Queen 2, concludes with 7 Seas of Rye. This song itself ends with a sung chorus of "I Do Like to Be Beside the Seaside." This connects not only the consecutive Queen albums, Queen 2 and Sheer Heart Attack, as the one ends, so the other begins, but also the songs 7 Seas of Rye and Brighton Rock, as the one ends, so the other begins. It is as though a character has stepped across the void from the one to the other. Still with the melody ringing, this character steps from the shores of Rye to the shores of Brighton. But who is it? Even without a particularly clear understanding of the lyrics of 7 Seas of Rye, it is evident that the first-person singer represents some sort of supernatural being that is capable of manipulating unbelievers. Listen to the opening lines of 7 Seas of Rye.
Feel me, you lords and lady preachers, I descend upon your earth from the skies. I command your very souls, you unbelievers. Bring before me what is wise, the MCs arrive.
So did a mischievous demon step from Rye to Brighton? On its own, the evidence of a demonic entity stepping from a seaside in Rye to the seaside of Brighton is interesting, but not particularly compelling. There needs to be more. My second point is that the word magic is repeated 3 times in Brighton Rock, indicating the possibility of something metaphysical. The first use of the word magic indicates that someone is casting a spell. This individual states, "It's so good to know there's still a little magic in the air. I'll weave my spell." Who is casting the spell? We are not told. It could be Jimmy, in the sense that he is trying to charm Jenny. But maybe not. It cannot be the watching crowd, since it is a single individual that weaves the spell. So who? The second use of the word magic is stated by Jenny, who suggests that the talk of magic in the air will not be an argument that will work on her mother. Jenny's stated turn of phrase is quite humorous. "If my mother should discover how I spent my holiday, it would be of small avail to talk of magic in the air. I'll say farewell." Yes, indeed, mothers need a little more than the idea of a bit of magic. The final use of magic is in the prayer to the Rock of Ages and Lady Moon that asks for a little people magic. But evidently the Rock of Ages and Lady Moon cannot help, because the request is for infidelity, which means that no good can come of it. The question basically remains, what is this magic talk all about? The third and final point with regard to the presence of a demonic Cupid is the outro. There is a hideous laugh that is devoid of any rock and roll coolness. Who laughs in this fashion? We are not told. I would suggest that the demon laughs with glee, and as May plays the closing lick of the song, it does a little dance of joy before vanishing in a puff of smoke. How do you hear it?